I hope you're hungry because today we're taking a look at Wilderfeast. Let's go. Welcome back to the Sacred Art of Gaming, and we're gonna look at a fun-ass looking book, Wilderfeast. This book kind of represents for me like a group of books that I'm always like interested in but haven't fully dove in yet, and I mean still have not dove into it, but I am very interested. And this is just kind of at a glance because I'll be honest with you, I haven't really given this the time and attention of like a full playthrough, group or solo, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here that I think is worth sharing. To start with, this damn art. This art in most circumstances is charming and really inviting for the game. Sometimes it's not the best, but for the most part, it's excellent. And I love when they do this with books. So the deal with Wilderfeast, if you haven't noticed already, is you are what you eat. Now, if you are a fan of the Monster Hunter video games, you're going to notice a game loop that is very familiar to you. So with this game, it's really gonna be all about hunting down the monster, and when I say hunting them down, like you don't know where they are yet. So in the video games, you tend to get dropped into an area and you're looking for like tracks or clues or something, and you can also like kind of prepare while you're on the way. That exists in this game. And then you actually have the hunt itself where you're actually fighting it, or I suppose you could try and capture it too. And then afterwards, there is the feast in this game. Although the video game, I guess you want to feast before to prepare, but whatever, you get the idea. In this case, you need the beast to feast. Because you're gonna feast on the beast, is how that goes. And then you have your downtime. Free play does also exist, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. This, I think, gives you a good idea as to what the game has to offer. I mean, this second half here, I think is, I don't want you to feel too intimidated by the girth of the book. It is on the beefy side. What is this, like 300 plus? Yeah, 300. But the core mechanics don't seem bad. I've gone through like some examples and stuff, but have I gone through like a full play? No. Now, the vibes for this game, I dig it. I think this game, Coyote and Crow, Avatar, I think I might play all of those like back to back to back because they kind of have similar vibes in a way, where you are pro environment and you are pro, like, you're like a ranger druid type. But the reason why you're hunting these monsters is because they essentially have rabies. They have a name for it somewhere. I'm sure we'll stumble upon it, but they have some type of disease that causes them to be a little more rambunctious than usual. So you hunting them is actually beneficial for the world, the region, the environment, Mother Nature, so to speak. This kind of gives you an idea as to what you'll need. This is mostly a dice pool system, and this gives you the setting and the tone, which is I probably should have read this instead of trying to get ahead of it. One land is vast, wild, and old. It's populated entirely by monsters, extraordinary creatures who take inspiration from paleontology, cryptozoology, and works like Monster Hunter and Godzilla. They celebrate and exaggerate the methods life used to survive. Okay. And then, of course, make it your own. All right, that didn't quite give me what I wanted, but the idea here is you hunt down these monsters that are a problem, you eat the monsters, you get traits from the monsters, rinse and repeat. I probably should have just led with that. Should have led with that. So there's a cool like crafting aspect to it through food. And this breaks down the gameplay loop we were talking about. You've got free play where you can do whatever. You have the trail, which is where you're exploring and you're looking for the monster. You actually confront the monster. And then the feast. Gather around the fire to share a meal with your pack mates. And this is back at your den, which is, you know, pretty dope. There's some cool, there's some interesting stuff here that I think would be cool for solo play. I think. Now with this game, you're going to, your die roll is going to be determined based on like words, tags. And those words and tags are styles and skills. Well, there's plenty of excellent breakdowns within the book. So you create a dice pool with a number of d6s equal to your level in the test style, and then you choose your action die. This is where you, it's your risk reward mechanic. Humans have a d8 by default, but you can ramp it up and go wild and make it a d20. D20 is swingy, so there's that, but also you lose a d6 to do that. So you roll your dice pool, add your skill, and then check for success. Success, I believe, is it 5 and higher? So 5 and 6. We'll break that down further. So, actually, I have it right here in my notes. 4 or less is a fail. 5 to 7 is a success. 8+ is very good. Those numbers being above a 6 because you're adding your trait roll to that. All right, so the character creation. This is cool. This is cool. I really like this. You have your styles over here, which are kind of like attributes. It's a fancy way of saying attributes. Mighty, precise, swift, and tricky. And then you have your skills over here. These range from, maybe let's break down this entire part. So styles range from 0 to 5 for monsters and 1 to 5 for wilders. You're a wilder. Every wilder starts with 3 in one style, 2 in another style, and 1 in the remaining styles, based on their chosen tool. Your tool is gonna be like a class in a way. For each level you have in a style, you get a d6 when rolling tests. There are 4 styles in total, so that's those. And then for your skills, they can range from +0 to +3. Every wilder starts with a +1 and 3 different skills, and +0 in the remaining skills based on their background. For each level you have in a skill, you increase a die result by 1 after you roll. You can combine any skill with any style when making tests. There are 12 skills in total. And this gives you some cool examples of ways that you would mix and match your styles and your skills. And that's really what this whole game is based on. And if I were to play this tomorrow, like an actual play, this will be my first game playing like this, where you're using words or tags. I've dabbled in some games, but it hasn't fully clicked with me yet, but I'm interested. So for assurance, for example, you can make a mighty assurance to pin a monster to the ground until it calms down. Make a swift assurance to boost a pack mate's confidence with your boisterous demeanor. So see what we're doing here? We're mixing the styles in orange with the skills in blue. All right, and then we have our traits. Traits, you're primarily going to get this, at least the part that I focused on for traits, from the monsters. So for example, there's an example later that we'll probably break down, where if there's a monster that flies and the part that you get from that monster that you're now eating, if it has flying 2 tied to it, you can eat that part, and then you can get flying 1, essentially. And you now fly after eating that monster. This is a big book, so we can't cover everything, but the character stuff, I do want to at least hit that pretty hard. So the tools and techniques, this is going to be, the tools is kind of like your classes. So that's gonna be the cleaver, the mitts, the pan, the spit, the torch, and the twine. And then your techniques, that's gonna be a special subset of traits, each corresponding to a certain tool. This is like a class, and this is like feats. for Pathfinder in a way. You know, Pathfinder 2e, the feats are tied to the class. You'll see. So here's some examples of the cleaver and the mitts. The mitts, you can see they got the big, they're like a hand-to-hand character. And the cleaver has a big melee weapon as well. So in addition to your cleaver, you gain either might, 2 precise, or 3 precise, 2 mighty. So those are your 2 options for your starting attributes, or what we call them here is, it was a few pages ago, styles. Styles are orange, skills are blue, as well as 1 swift, 1 tricky. So you'll notice kind of like the Legend and the Mist type games where there's like a number tied to like a tag or a word. So you also gain clean cut and 1 other beginner cleaver technique of your choice. These are the beginner cleaver techniques that we were talking about. So when I mentioned those being like feats almost, here is, so this is the clean cut, the one that you start with. Let's go to, let's say, big effing sword. Costs 3 stamina, a human of your choice becomes frightened. I'll be honest with you, I don't have enough context to know why that would be helpful. Do you, I guess maybe you'd be fighting humans as well as monsters. Maybe that's like the lead up to it. If I do like the intro adventures, it'll probably make more sense. So there's the mitts. Here's the pan. It is a literal pan. The spit. Spits are actually a family of tools which have similar functions. The most common are little more than arc steel skewers. Then we have the torch, and then we have the twine. And these kind of give you an idea as to like what role they would play. And then from there, we go into specialties. Now the specialties I originally wrote down, they're kind of like backgrounds, but then you go to the next area and then there's backgrounds. So if it's not a background, then I would say this is more like, let me know in the comments, but the Rangers in like D&D, I know they have a preferred foe or something like that, where it's like, oh, they are really good against dragons or something like that. I think it's probably more accurate to say that for this, because if you're a baker, you're interested in monsters with long lifespans. If you're a butcher, you're interested in monsters with metallic growths. And this represents the different monstrous lineages, so it's kind of like the categories of monsters, what you excel at taking down. And then it breaks this down further here with what each specialty gives you. I want to know, as we go through the book, if I do a review of this someday, I will probably dive more into it, but I'll have more experience with it. But the layout in this game is phenomenal, and it really, although this does kind of feel like a lot, just because of how different it is from the type of games I typically play, it makes me want to play it, and it feels like I can easily play it because of just the way everything is broken down so easily. Now the backgrounds, this is where you would describe your upbringing, your initiation, your ambition, and this last one, as you describe these meals, choose one which represents your connection to another packmate. And so all of this is a meal. So your upbringing, what meal defines your childhood, your initiation, what meal made you a wilder, etc. So it's all tied to food. Monsters and food. Monsters and food. Do you see the connection? And we have tables for it, which I love. And you'll notice that they're tied to skills. So you don't have to use these. These are just examples, so you could make your own if you want. That is all of those. And then we have your pack. Now this part, I generally like to play, solo play, with one character if I can. And a lot of times I'll throw in like mercenaries or hirelings or something like that, just to give my character someone or something to talk to. With this game, you're gonna have to have a pack, and I suppose you can treat them like hirelings in a way where maybe you're not your focus, but they're gonna be full characters. So that's probably the main reason why I haven't dove into this already. I'm gonna need like at least, it probably says if there's like a set minimum, but I want to say like at least 3. It might even say 4 in the example adventures or the intro adventures. It probably tells you. But something that's neat about these is that your packs have different like focuses that they have. They kind of it's almost like a faction for your pack. So you've got your bounty packs. They hunt monsters to get stronger, earn a rep, and see the world. Free packs, they guard their homes, steward the wild, and live among beasts. Lore packs, they study, they teach each other, and they solve mysteries. The Oath packs fulfill promises, honor tradition, and protect their community, and then it provides some additional options if none of those work for you. And then finally, some finishing touches, where they have things like names, wilder names, ancient names, send names. This is tied to some of the regions in the lore. And then your pack name, which is also really cool. If I were playing in a group, this would be a very, this would be the kind of thing that nobody would ever agree on. But some examples are things like Forever Stew, Green Soul, and world famous Barbecue Wilders. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a group where people actually all liked the group name, whether they came up with it or the GM kind of had the NPCs come up with it. You've got some appearance options here. And then we have your den, which I alluded to earlier. Here's some example dens. So you can have like a burrow or cave littered with trophies and treasures. And then maybe that den is in an environment like a sheer and blustery mountain slope, and then other residents with at least one packmate's extended family. So that does add for a lot of like really cool roleplay options. I like that a lot. And then we have the summary of character creation as a whole. Choose a tool, choose a specialty, make a 3-course background. I like that. As a group, choose your part. I can't say this to save my life. As a group, choose your pack archetype. Why do you hunt monsters, basically? And then apply the finishing touches. Now, how to play. There's excellent examples in this. This is pretty much a repeat of what we saw earlier. This does kind of break down like many games. You can apply things like advantage and disadvantage based on risk and whatever other costs that you're implementing. Oh, there is a ribbon as well. I'm always a fan of that. This breaks down the checking for successes. So what I stated earlier, the 1 to 4, 5 to 7, and the 8+. If you want to go wild or not, to risk it to get the biscuit. And look at this amazing breakdown. So you decide your style and your skill. Remember, style's like your attribute. It's orange. Skill is kind of like a skill. It's blue. So create a dice pool. So number of D6s equal the level in the style. Choose your action die, whether you want to go wild by removing a D6 and adding a D20 for your effort, or keeping your D8 as your effort. And then roll the dice and apply the skill. +1 on any die for each level in the skill. Then you check for success. So if this person has 2 success, 1 failure, they're going to ignore that. They have an action score of 4. You can help. There's challenges, shows you the different challenges. Consequences for failing. It's a nice, wonderful example here. I don't think I really want to dive too much into that because I'm going to go into the conditions over here. I really just want to focus a little bit on like the wounded conditions, where essentially you have wounded 1, wounded 2, wounded 3, and then if you get to wounded 3, you can still push yourself to act as normal, and you may spend actions and make tests, but the next time you take damage while wounded 3, you die. So although this is kind of rules light, you can lose your life. Another big part of this that I want to touch on here is the harmony piece. We did mention stamina earlier for like an ability, so that's like your pool for that. I don't want to go too crazy in that because it's just at a glance, but harmony is tied to like your how tied in you are to yourself and the world, and how the two of those things are in sync. Now, if you lose harmony, you can lose harmony, for example, by each time you go wild and fail, you lose harmony. You start with 3, and then if you get to 0, you become discordant, and your thoughts and your instincts are in conflict. You gain disadvantage on all tests, which is not great. Maybe it's worth mentioning advantage and disadvantage to represent shifting circumstances, the riskiness of actions, or how well you've adapted to situations. You can gain advantage or disadvantage on tests. On a test with advantage, results of 4+ on the style dice are success. On a test with disadvantage, only results of a 6+ on the style dice are successes. So it brings the number down 1 or up 1 because you're already in a dice pool system. So adding die, I think that's probably the right move. But that is huge. Disadvantage on all tests, you need a 6 on everything. That's rough. So you want to stay in harmony. So I mean, the stuff you need to kind of play for the most part is really just this, the first 50 pages. The next 50 pages are useful because it's going to go over the trail and how that works. You have some optional roles that you can take while you're on the trail, and this is really just you're in the area where you know there's a monster, you're trying to find the monster and maybe gather supplies along the way. You do have some random events that can take place while, whether it's peaceful or dangerous, while you are going on the hunt. And then, this is great art, I love it. Then you are on the hunt and they start to mention like getting parts. So each monster, which we'll see later, has parts that you can get, and those parts have different traits to them that you want to absorb when you feast. And you can also destroy those parts. It does give you an example here of if you get the part, under normal circumstances, this is what you can potentially get. And if it's broken, you can see it kind of got degraded a little bit here. So the range went from 2 to 1 strike. The part deals half damage, as opposed to getting advantage on tests. And then we have brutally broken, and this just breaks down tools that you can get from them a little bit. Distance in combat. Now, this is something that I haven't been able to fully embrace this whole thing. I think just because it's just so foreign. I think this honestly is really just zones. I think this is zones, but because it's just a little different, it's throwing me off. I know if you're like the Mitts character, you really want to be like all up in their grill. You want to be right on top of them. That's your ideal range. And maybe a more range character like maybe the Torch. Torch might be more of a range character. You probably want to be further away because they don't want to get hit by all these crazy attacks. So admittedly, I don't have a full grasp of this, and this is kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of, you know, they're in the water too. So like people can be in the water, on land, in the sky. That part can get complicated. When I review it, I'll have a more thorough breakdown, maybe even do like a combat breakdown. Here are the various combat options. And then monster behavior. Every monster has its own like AI to some degree. It's fairly simple, not anything too crazy, but I'm happy to have it. Especially makes every monster feel a little different. And then we have the feast. So things you want to break down in the feast is like, how are you cooking the monster? What are you doing to prepare the meal? What else are you serving? How is the meal connected to your past? And the next time you eat this meal, what will you remember? So something I really love about this game is everything is so tied into like this ritualistic, the hunt, but then also the meal. And then I really love that because it just feels like I feel like you're really a part of the mechanics and the world. I feel like they're tied so tightly together, which makes a really unique experience. I dig that. And that is pretty much how you end the journey until you go on to the next one. And then we have some examples of like how to cook, some sample recipes. So we're at like 80 pages now. Now this is starting, well, other than downtime, these are just a few sample meals, which, man, doesn't that look great? Remind you of Monster Hunter, or was there a Final Fantasy that dove into that too? Yeah, there's been quite a few games. Last part here that I really want to dive into is the downtime. The downtime, this is where you can resupply, train, recover, work on projects, and that's a part of the gameplay loop. Changing signs, that I don't have a good handle on. And then we finally get into the history. And now this, and there's quite a bit. Obviously we're not going to go through all that, but I just want to give you an idea as to how much of this book is the history that is, you don't feel like you have to go through all of the entire book to know how to play. This is all history that, if it were me, I would kind of take this like as needed. This is, for me, too much to read all at once, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here that is dripping in theme. And I do like that this doesn't feel like your traditional fantasy game. I like that a lot. And then the next section is going to be the bestiary, which is going to be another huge part of it. I don't want to give away everything, but here's an example of one of the monsters. So the art, amazing. A Siwa, monster of the butcher's line, on average 15 meters in length. Remember we mentioned the butcher earlier as one of the, not the backgrounds, but the specialties. I love how you have almost like a researcher drawing it. Here's the styles and skills of the monster, and then the traits, and then the parts. So this is what we were talking about earlier with, if you get the jaw, this part has no additional effect. Not the best example. Maybe scales, let's go with scales. If you get the scales, it has a range of 1, mighty grab, and then a passive. If you attack a creature with this part and succeed, it becomes caught. Creatures caught by this part take 5 damage each time they spend actions or stamina. Really cool, so that's like a tool that you would get. And then if broken, as you can see, it is quite a bit less. Lets you know the habitat that it lives in, and then also its diet. And it does kind of let you know some very specific creatures or their parts. And then here are the traits that if you were to eat, oh, and we have some additional ones over here. These are things that you could get. And if you've noticed in some of the art, the humans don't look like fully human. You can tell that they are kind of morphed over time as they kind of become one with nature. So yeah, really cool art. And there are a lot of monsters. Monsters go all the way up until here. So there's all your monsters. So between the monsters and the history, that's a big chunk of the game, which I'm happy that it's there, especially with the art and how excellent the art is in most circumstances. But we're not gonna go through every single one. The video's already probably kind of long. There's some additional like GM optional stuff in the back here. Some additional keywords, really neat. Some themes, etc. Just other stuff that you can do with the game outside of the core. This is going into a series of introductory adventures. That's also here in section 12. And then lastly, we have an excellent appendices in the back that breaks down a lot of this stuff for you. I do want to show you the character sheet, which is here. I feel like you get to learn a lot about a game based on what the character sheet looks like. So it's gonna be 1 page front and back. This is primarily going to be your stats, and then on this side, this is gonna be, we'll say, flavor, sort of. We didn't really talk about the staple and the spice, but that is another part of returning to your den. And you may have noticed I have Lancer and Blades in the Dark out. The reason for that is because that is part of the works cited. And this, I love when people like let you know where they're coming from. And then lastly, another set of amazing art. I don't know why I always start, or I always end with the end of the book, I probably should start. Because this gives you a brief little breakdown. If I'm smart enough, I'll actually edit this to be in the front. Welcome to the One Land, a post-apocalyptic supercontinent where food is magic, a vast, wild, and old world populated by monsters, giant, kaiju-esque creatures inspired by paleontology and cryptozoology. Play as a wilder, an outcast ranger who wields a gargantuan kitchen implement and gains powerful mutations from each monster they eat. Part monster hunters, part chefs, wilders work in packs and have taken on the duty of stopping the frenzy. That was the rabies I was looking for. An eldritch virus which makes monsters violent and self-destructive. Using their powers, wilders seek harmony between humanity and the wild. For all creatures, be they humans or monsters, obey the one law of the one land. You are what you eat. And this kind of breaks down everything that I already broke down. And this is Modifius Entertainment. Is this... I don't think it's just a Modifius book though, right? Here we go. Author and writer, K.C. Shi. Developers, K.C. Shi and Federico Corbetta Kechai. Everybody else that also helped with the game. I need to be better about that. But yeah, that has been Wilderfeast. Have you played Wilderfeast? Has this got you interested in playing Wilderfeast? Do you like Monster Hunter type games? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm excited to play it at some point. I'm sure I'll have something on camera, whether it's a full playthrough or an example combat someday. And maybe even a review after that, but once I get a full feel for it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube things, and I'll see you in the next one as we continue to explore the sacred art of gaming together. See ya!